Welcome back to our channel, dear viewers. Today is a beautiful day to gather around and delve into the intricate, emotionally charged world of Port Charles. We have so much to discuss regarding the latest heart-wrenching developments. As a longtime viewer and critic of General Hospital, I have witnessed countless family dramas, bitter custody battles, and shocking betrayals over the decades. Yet, the current storyline involving Rocco Falconeri, his parents Dante Falconeri and Lulu Spencer, and his surrogate mother Britt Westbourne is shaping up to be one of the most emotionally complex and legally tangled narratives we have seen in years. The sheer intensity of the emotions radiating from the screen is palpable, and it forces us to ask deeply uncomfortable questions about the true meaning of motherhood, loyalty, and the lengths we will go to protect the ones we love. The revelation that Dante and Lulu have tracked down Rocco and Britt in the Virgin Islands has set the stage for an explosive confrontation, one that threatens to permanently fracture the delicate bond between a teenage boy and the parents who have fought so desperately to keep him safe. When we look at the situation unfolding in the sun-drenched but tension-filled Virgin Islands, it is impossible not to feel a profound sense of sorrow for everyone involved. Rocco Falconeri is currently experiencing a level of anger and betrayal that is completely understandable for a young man in his incredibly unique position. From his perspective, he has finally found a sense of safety and unconditional acceptance with Britt while they were on the run from the terrifying threat of Ross Cullum. To have that fragile sanctuary violently shattered by the sudden arrival of Dante and Lulu must feel like the ultimate violation of his trust. Rocco did not see himself as a victim of a kidnapping. He saw himself as a willing participant in a desperate flight for survival. He chose to go with Britt because he believed, perhaps rightly so, that she was the only one who could keep him hidden from the lethal forces closing in on Port Charles. However, the legal reality of the situation is a cold, harsh truth that Dante and Lulu are entirely justified in pursuing. Even if it alienates their son, as a seasoned detective, Dante knows all too well that taking a minor across state lines, let alone international borders, without the explicit consent of the legal guardians is a severe federal offense. It does not matter in the eyes of the law that Rocco packed his own bags and went willingly. The law views Rocco as a child, incapable of making such a monumental, life-altering decision. The fact that Dante and Lulu are considering pressing kidnapping charges against Britt highlights the absolute desperation they feel as parents. They are terrified, they are angry, and they are utilizing the only weapon they have, the justice system, to regain control over a situation that has spiraled into absolute madness. The jurisdictional nightmare of this scenario only adds to the dramatic tension that keeps us glued to our screens. Dante, despite his badge and his authority within the Port Charles Police Department, has absolutely no jurisdiction in the Virgin Islands. He cannot simply slap a pair of handcuffs on Britt and drag her onto a plane back to New York. The process of extradition, the involvement of local authorities, and the bureaucratic red tape make an immediate arrest impossible. This creates a fascinating irony. Dante and Lulu, in their desperate bid to save their son from Ross Cullum, must now go on the run themselves, alongside Rocco. They intend to stay hidden until Cullum is no longer a threat, meaning that any formal kidnapping charges against Britt will have to wait until the dust settles and they safely return to Port Charles. This delay gives the emotional wounds plenty of time to fester and deepen. To truly understand the depth of Lulu's fury and Rocco's defiance, we must look back at the painful history of Rocco's conception. For those of us who have followed Lulu Spencer's journey for years, we vividly recall the agonizing heartbreak she endured when her embryo was stolen. The sheer trauma of knowing another woman, especially someone as historically complicated and deeply flawed as Britt Westbourne was carrying her biological child, left permanent scars on Lulu's soul. Seeing her teenage son now fiercely defend the very woman who caused that initial anguish is a psychological torment that is undoubtedly driving Lulu to make incredibly rash and punitive decisions. Lulu's hatred for Britt is not just about this current flight from danger. It is rooted in years of resentment, fear, and the lingering insecurity that Britt somehow holds a primal claim over her son. Rocco's perspective on his birth is equally valid and deeply moving. He is acutely aware of the circumstances surrounding his surrogacy. He knows that the embryo was stolen, but he also knows a fundamental, undeniable truth. Without Britt Westborn, he would not exist. She carried him, she gave birth to him, and in his eyes, she is just as much his mother as Lulu is. This biological and emotional connection cannot simply be erased by legal documents or Lulu's lingering trauma. Rocco's attachment to Britt, and by extension, his fondness for Liesl Obrecht, is a natural consequence of his complicated origins. When Dante and Lulu threaten to throw Britt in a prison cell for the rest of her life, Rocco does not see parents protecting their child. He sees his parents ruthlessly attacking the woman who gave him life and risked everything to save him from a madman. We have seen this type of tragic surrogacy dynamic play out recently in Port Charles, providing a dark mirror to Rocco's current dilemma. Consider the devastating storyline involving Christina Corinthos Davis, Molly Lansing Davis, and TJ Ashford. Christina became deeply attached to the baby she was carrying for her sister, even going so far as to name the child, proving that the physical act of carrying a life creates an emotional bond that logic and legal agreements simply cannot sever. The Davis family has been utterly destroyed by secrets, kidnappings, and betrayals stemming from deep-seated emotional attachments. Rocco is living his own version of this tragedy. He understands the profound bond of surrogacy, and his resentment toward Lulu's inability to accept that bond is tearing their relationship apart. Lulu's anxiety over Rocco's affection for Britt is palpable, and as a viewer, my heart aches for her. She is a Spencer, fiercely protective of her family, but her heavy-handed approach is backfiring spectacularly. By demanding that Britt face kidnapping charges, Lulu is inadvertently forcing Rocco to choose sides. And right now, Rocco is firmly standing by Britt. He sees Britt as a protector who is actively running to save both of their lives from Ross Cullum's sinister grasp. To Rocco, the idea of punishing Britt for an act of survival is the ultimate injustice. His fury is raw, unfiltered, and incredibly dangerous for a teenager who is already feeling isolated and misunderstood by the adults who are supposed to guide him. But the tragedy of Rocco's situation does not end with his parents. The betrayal he feels extends to his own generation, specifically toward his sister, Charlotte Cassadine. Rocco is under the mistaken impression that Charlotte is the one who sold them out and revealed their secret location in the Virgin Islands to Dante and Lulu. The dynamic between the legacy children of Port Charles is always fraught with the sins of their parents, and this misunderstanding is a heartbreaking example of that cycle continuing. Rocco trusted Charlotte with his life, revealing their hiding spot for one incredibly specific and vital reason. He needed her to contact Nathan so that Britt could receive her life-saving medication. This brings us to the most agonizing and dramatically ironic twist of the entire storyline. Rocco, in his desperate bid to keep Britt alive, placed his ultimate trust in the man he believes to be Nathan West. As longtime viewers, we are screaming at our television screens because we know the horrifying truth. This man is not Nathan. He is Cassius Faison, a master manipulator who is playing a deeply sinister game with the lives of everyone in Port Charles. Rocco's anger at Charlotte is entirely misplaced. He believes his sister betrayed him to their parents, when in reality, he has handed his trust over to a dangerous imposter who is actively deceiving Nina, Liesl, and the entire police force. The tragic irony that Rocco trusts Cassius more than his own sister is a masterclass in dramatic storytelling, setting the stage for an inevitable and devastating revelation. As I watch Rocco navigate this emotional minefield, I cannot help but fear for the future of the Falconeri Spencer family. Rocco's determination to stay with Britt and protect her from his parents' legal wrath is pushing him toward a catastrophic rebellion. He is a minor, completely powerless in the eyes of the law, yet he possesses the stubborn, fiery spirit of both the Falconeri and Spencer bloodlines. If Dante and Lulu continue to push this aggressive narrative of charging Britt with kidnapping, they risk alienating Rocco permanently. They may succeed in bringing him back to Port Charles physically, but they will lose his heart and his trust in the process. The resentment he is building now could take years, if not decades, to dismantle. The writers of General Hospital are truly firing on all cylinders with this narrative, weaving together past traumas, legal complexities, and intense character psychology. We are forced to ask ourselves, what is the right path here? Should Dante and Lulu prioritize the letter of the law and punish Britt for crossing boundaries, even if it destroys their son's mental health? Or should they recognize the unique, undeniable bond between Rocco and his surrogate mother and show grace in the face of absolute chaos? As older fans who have watched these characters grow from infants into troubled young adults, we know that there are no easy answers in Port Charles. The fallout from this confrontation in the Virgin Islands will undoubtedly ripple through the town for months to come, leaving shattered relationships and broken hearts in its wake. I, for one, will be watching every single moment, hoping against hope that this family can find a way to heal before the damage becomes irreversible.